Violence Against Women Act Measuring Effectiveness Initiative, or VAWA MEI, has created a database to help you store some of your program's data for how you use your grant funds, which will be used on your semi-annual progress reports. And this particular database is for the culturally specific services or underserved program grantees, which currently do use the same form. So this is a simple, user-friendly database, and it really does focus on the specific parts of the form that has events repeated maybe more than one time throughout the reporting period, so that you can easily store those in one place. But it's not going to capture every activity that your program might do. It really is focused on what the progress report is going to be measuring in terms of your grant funds. It allows you to collect information specific to the activities funded under your underserved or culturally specific services grant, as I stated before. So you can go through and input each event as it occurs throughout the sections, and at the end it'll create a summary report with all of that information totaled for you, so that you can easily plug that into your progress report in the GMS system. It's not going to automatically fill out the form for you, but it will create reports that make it really simple to just plug that data in. So as I mentioned, it's specific to just certain areas of the form, which include training, community education, products, and victim services. So you can download the database at the VAWA MEI website, and I'll take you there now. All right, so you can navigate there, starting at the home page, going to Grant Programs, and then Culturally Specific Services Program, or you could also access it through Underserved as well. And scroll down until you find the database here. So again, starting from the beginning, if you're on our home page, you can go to Grant Programs. Each program has an icon here, and you can go through either the Culturally Specific Services Program, or you could scroll down until you find Underserved. Click. And then there's a lot of great other resources here, including sample progress reporting forms, instructions, training webinars that have been recorded so that you can watch them anytime, and here is the database. So you would click through, and you can follow the download instructions here, and when you're ready, you can click this icon. I already have a copy downloaded that we'll reference today. All right. So here you go. This is in the form of an Access database. This is a Microsoft product that has tables built into it that you can't see here, but then great user interfaces. So this is one step in. So this is what you'll see when you first open it up, and then you'd want to click here to add new records or edit existing records. And then you can choose which of the applicable sections you'd like to add data for. So if we go into training, we'll click here, and this is a record that already exists. You can see all of the ones that have been added already in this drop-down. Everything that you'll see in the database today is just made up data for the purposes of this tutorial. So they're not super creative names, but it does help to at least understand the functionality of this. So you can see this one that already exists has a date, a name of the event, number of hours, and who attended. Again, all of these different categories of people trained that you could choose from are the same ones that you'll find on the form. Also takes you through topics for the training content areas here, and any sort of issues specific to rural victims or survivors, and as well as the community response section here. You can add a new record simply by clicking that button. Enter in the date of the training event. You'll notice you do need to start with a 2 characters for the month here. So we'll start in the current reporting period that we're in. I'll add something for today. So September 5th, 2018. We'll try to call this database tutorial, an hour. We'll just add in some groups here. Really just choosing some categories here for this example. Great. And we can save this record. Now when we go to this drop-down, you'll see that we have this database tutorial here with today's date in addition to the other two that were already there. You can also click these buttons to go through previous records or next records if there were any. And this button to close the form, and it'll bring us back out to this main window here. And in the community education section, it looks pretty similar. Again, you've got your drop-down that shows everything that's already been entered. We can see we have two, a fair and a forum that already existed here. People that were educated, again, these all match what is on your progress reporting form, and topics. You can use these buttons to scroll through or the close form to return to that main menu. Product section includes, as we can see here, all of the different types of products that are included on your progress reporting form. In this case, a video was made. It was creatively called video number 1, and it was about dating violence to high school students. You can just click here to update that typo. So this can easily be edited. And it says that it was originally either developed or revised on July 23rd. But since there's no data here, it looks like we haven't distributed any of these yet. So I'm going to add in today's date. And say that we distributed 3 copies of this video. At a later date, if we distribute even more, I can go back and add that information in as well. Typically how Access works, if you want to save something, you can click into another field and that would already automatically save whatever you had been working in, or you can come up here and use the save icon. So we can add another record here. All right, so these are our options to choose from. There's also other as an option if it really doesn't fit any of these. We'll say we created a brochure. We'll call it dating violence as well. Not super creative titles here, and this will be for middle school. All right, and we'll say that we also developed it in Spanish. Okay, we can save this record, and then again, go back to the main form. Victim services is a little bit of a longer section here and captures more data. We can see that we have 2 already entered into the system, or entered into this database. And one important thing to note when you're in the victim services section, you'll see that there is a number here, and optional to add in the name. If you are going to be using this database with more specific information about those that you're serving, such as their names, we recommend that you check out these guidelines available on our website here that notes that grantees must independently ensure client confidentiality. And for more information, we do have this data security checklist for your reference, which was prepared by the National Network to End Domestic Violence. So that really entails making sure you're de-identifying all of the information that's in here or using it on a local drive. But again, there's more specific information provided at this link. So back to the database, we see that we've got a few different areas where we can add information. So here's this initial one with name information. We also see there's a number, date, and a primary victimization. It notes here to check only one because that is how it works on the form as well. So all of this, the way the database is set up is really to mimic how it is on the form. So your organization might record or report a little bit differently for your own internal data collection, but here we do have it set up so only the primary victimization can be entered. So in this case, domestic violence/dating violence was checked off, and demographic information. And then in relationship to offender, if there were multiple victimizations, which it looks like in this example, again, all made up information, there were. So there's domestic violence/dating violence by a current or former spouse or intimate partner, and then in addition to that, stalking by a current or former dating relationship. Services is where you can enter in all the different services this person received from your organization. Anything that you were grant funded to provide should go here. If you're looking to record everything, maybe you have other grant funds that you're using to serve victims or survivors, make sure that this is just reflecting the services that were provided using your culturally specific services or underserved grant funds if you are using this to fill out the progress reporting form. Next, there's shelter services if you're funded to provide those, and then protection orders. So we'll go ahead and add another victim or survivor here. So for 3, we'll skip this name information since it is optional. Okay. All right. Then we have the option to put in information about the relationship to offender. So in this case, since the primary victimization we checked off was sexual assault, we'll check off something in this column here. And we'll leave it at 1 victimization for this example. And then we can save, record, and enter other information. And that's when you get the option to add services here, shelter services, or protection orders. So you can add a new service. And these are all the options from the progress reporting form. All right. Okay. And we'll put in today's date. And the date that this was provided. We can save the record and then add another service. And in some cases, the services are not always provided. So in this case, for the example, transportation was requested, but we'll leave the service provided date blank because it was never actually provided. And we can say that that happened because of hours of operation. So whenever a service was requested but not able to be provided, a reason needs to be indicated here. So again, all of these reasons listed match the form. In this case, we chose hours of operation. We just checked that off. And now we can save the record. Hitting close form will take us back out to the main menu, where we can enter information on a secondary victim. Because the form only has, I believe, 1 question about secondary victims, there's not a lot of information, or rather fields in the database to collect that information here. And then here you would put the service dates, any services were provided for secondary victims. So we already have a secondary victim here, just 1 and then we can add in an additional service date. And again, if we want to save this in Access, we can click into another field, such as that, and now this is information that I just entered as saved, or we could also hit the Save button. And closing of the form will bring us back to this main menu where we can go into Hotline Calls. Here you can put the date of the request and then the type of request, so you can choose from hotline calls, walk-in information, or referrals. And again, you can scroll through using these buttons here. You'll note that you can also indicate if any other languages other than English were used to respond to this request. And lastly, outreach to victims or survivors. Here you can do the date any outreach was done and number of times and any languages other than English that were used. Because there's really limited questions on the form around this, you'll notice again there's not many fields to capture data around this in this database. So these are all important things to keep in mind as you're deciding whether or not this database format works for your program and the information that's important for you to be tracking. If I go to the main window, I could open the report and put in the dates that I would like to pull reports for. Typically, if you are filling out your progress report, you'll be putting in a 6-month period, and so this is just make sure you actually enter in the full period you're pulling data for and nothing beyond that, so that you get the accurate data. So in this case, I'll do the current reporting period starting on July 1st, 2018, going through December 31st. And we can go to the training section first. All right, and here this is telling us really clearly that the total number of training events provided are 3. So it totaled all the different events that we put in. And it's telling us here that these are to be used to fill out question 15. So as noted, this isn't going to directly input all of the data automatically right into the form, but it does aggregate it in a really simple way so that you can clearly see what needs to be input into each question. The number of people trained, again, this was totaled up for us. And these should all match the same order on the progress report form. Within Access, you'll see you can scroll here on the very bottom to the other pages. So it's not just one page. It's page 2 of 3. But you can also go up here under this drop-down menu under More. And if you click on the Word icon, it'll export it out into a Word document, which might be easier to reference or print. It's really up to your own preference here. And just to demonstrate how similarly this is to the form, I go and open a sample one from the VAWA MEI website. So if I go to grant programs, we'll go to the culturally specific services one this time. And I can scroll down to see the culturally specific services sample progress reporting form. We'll go ahead and click this and download a copy. Great. And now we can see when we go to the training section, question 15 is asking for the number of training events provided, and question 16 is people trained with a long list and the number for each one, which looks very similar to what we have over here in our database. So this really does help to speed up that final process for you. I close the print preview, Go to community education. Looks very similar. This is a multiple page report, but again, totals up the training events and tells you exactly which question to do that they'll be used for on the forum, as well as the people educated. Products distributed works very similarly. I believe we only had a video that we distributed, so we'll go to the end, and here we see it here. There were 3 total distributed for this. And this report is a little bit different. It filters only to any information that was updated. So in this case, the only thing that was developed or revised was that video here. Under Victim Services, it'll ask if anything needs to be updated. So we can click through. Great. And at the end here, we see that, again, it looks very similar to the chart that you fill out on the form. So we have all the different primary victimizations, served, partially served, and those who are not served. And this is going to be the total of everything you entered. And this is the longest report, page 1 of 7. So this might be a great time to go up here and use that menu to make a Word document. These are all the services we entered. And the hotline calls or walk-ins or web-based information referrals are also included right on this report, as well as outreach. And production orders, lastly. Closing this goes back to the main menu, and that is the brief overview of how to use this database. If you do have any additional questions, we would encourage you to reach out to us through the Contact Us form on our website, which is VAWAMEI.org. On the VAWAMEI.org website, you can also find a lot of helpful tools, including sample progress reports, recorded webinars that go in greater detail about how to use the form. This particular tutorial is really just aimed at the database. As well as frequently asked questions, and you can view our summary or data reports there. And please do reach out if you have any further questions or need assistance with this. Our phone number is listed here, as well as our general email.